Hi, this is Nancy Zhang, the creator of Cursed at Sea, and this is the True North Country Comics podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Nancy Zhang about her illustrative art projects, including Cursed at Sea. Please like and subscribe to this website by hitting the subscribe button, so you'll be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Nancy Zhang, a mixed media artist from Toronto, creates visuals that convey sound and emotions. Nancy's diverse body of work spans digital and analog mediums and formats. Her artworks have been featured in publications across North America and Asia, as well as alongside musicians and authors worldwide. Nancy's work has graced both physical and virtual exhibitions and collections, including Scotiabank Arena's permanent art collection and Art Toronto's Edition Art Book Fair. A solo exhibition with the Toronto Public Library is also in the works. Nancy is a published author with books like Farewell from 2021 and Imagination from 2022, and the comic book series Cursed at Sea. Beyond personal creations, Nancy is an experienced art director in the gaming industry, contributing her unique aesthetic to games like Stratera by ID34 Games and Then Sheng's Written by Lalala Game Studio. The story of Cursed at Sea goes like this. In a world populated by elves, humans, and sea monsters, Aaron, the half-elf, has headed out at sea in search of revenge, as well as the peace amongst three races. He joins a magical and diverse crew filled with all different hopes and dreams to fulfill. So without further ado, here's my chat with Nancy Zhang about her illustrative art projects, including Cursed at Sea. So Nancy Zhang, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time. Before I get going with all the questions, I would like to know, what was the first comic book that you read?
To be honest, I probably started with manga. So, if that counts.
Oh, it definitely counts. Absolutely.
Okay.
What was your favorite title then, or the first title that you remember reading?
Oh, I started like way back, introduced by my parents. Saint Seiya or Knights of the Zodiac. It's like very old battle manga.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
good
there's
stuff.
that. And then later on, got more into DC stuff.
Oh, okay. Very good. Do you still read manga today or no?
Not that much. I create more than I consume.
Right.
But yes, I still do.
Very good. So lots of great stuff when you're growing up, but I'm wondering who or what inspires you to create today?
There's an there's a Japanese artist called Demizu Posuka, the creator of Promised Neverland. I actually found out about the artist via illustrations, which is basically what I do, and then I realized, wait, but you draw comics. And that kind of all came together. And also, like as a kid, I didn't realize this until I looked back, and I'm like, oh, I did draw a lot of comics. I just didn't really know what they were. They were just there in my sketchbooks.
That's cool. That's good
Yeah,
stuff.
so that happened.
Neat. Now, we met briefly at the recent Toronto Comic Con, so I've got to ask you,
Yes.
how was that show for you?
It's my best year so far.
It's great.
Yeah, the one this year, the one that we met at, it was pretty good. My comic didn't do too well at that show comparing to like even smaller shows for some reason. Maybe people just liked the bigger posters there. But
It
yeah, it
could
was a
be,
great
yeah.
show.
Good. It
And
was a good turnout from what I heard.
yeah, pretty good. And I had like a fan show up, which is a first, like a fan of my comic series, not just any fan. And she didn't know who I was. She just walked by, saw the book I had displayed, and was like, "Oh, I'm following this." And that was the best feeling ever.
That is very cool, especially when someone comes up and recognizes you for your work.
Yeah.
That's tremendous. That's good stuff. I was reading your bio and it says you're a mixed media artist. For this conversation, I'd like to focus on your comic series, and you just mentioned it. It's called Cursed at Sea.
Wondering if you could talk a little
Yes.
bit about that story. What is it all about?
Okay, well, it's a fantasy story about the world filled with three dominant species. You have humans, elves, and sea monsters, which are basically sea creatures, and they gain magical powers and transform into a humanoid form. So these three are the big three. There's that, and the world itself. There's a thing that kicks it off. The world setting and how the story starts is that the elves are being cast away by the land itself. If they live there for any longer, they would all get basically poisoned to death. So everyone of elven blood is forced to go sail into the oceans, to the waters. However, that's already domain of the sea monsters. So that's where our story begins, and our main character is a half-blood. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I was wondering, I mean, you had a physical copy of your book at your
Yes.
table, but people can read it online as well. Is that what I assume, or no?
I have the content of the first book on Webtoon in like the scrolling Webtoon format. And I'm also updating weekly on Instagram with just the new stuff. Probably not gonna put more on Webtoon because reformatting everything is basically doing double the amount of work. So that's not really worth it. But I do have whatever that's in the first book on Webtoon if you want to binge through it. Or just go on Instagram and go in my highlights. I have everything there.
That's great. Because of, again, you have different types of media that you follow and you create with. I wonder if you could walk me through specifically the creation of this comic book, Cursed at Sea. What tools did you use?
Well, for some of the bigger scene illustrations or splashes, whatever you want to call them, or cover pages, I resort to, I guess, my most comfort zone, and I start on paper with graphite, inks, acrylics, whatever, my usual arsenal, let's put it that way, and scan it in for some digital coloring. However, for the most of the story pages themselves, the panels are done digitally. Sometimes I do like a analog thumbnail really quick. But most of it is digital because that's just faster and easier to manipulate and change things around. Yeah.
So I get the sense that you prefer digital over analog or traditional tools.
No, I prefer traditional. If I can do traditional, I would go traditional all the way.
Is
Yeah.
it mainly a sense of time? Like if you're rushed, you feel like, oh, I'll just do digital. I don't have to worry about it. But if you had your time and you could relax and create at your leisure, you would probably prefer traditional tools, correct?
Yeah, let's put it that way. For comics specifically, I'm doing digital because also the ease of editing, right? Of moving things around, maybe shifting things, changing the panels, etc. If I were to do that analog, I would probably have to redraw everything.
That takes a long time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I was looking at your bio. It says that you're also an art director in the gaming industry, which is quite unique. I wonder if you could talk about that.
Well, I work for a small indie studio, and well, I started at first making a tabletop game with my now editor of my comic. And we started in that, and then I later got hooked up to my current, I guess, one of my bosses into the gaming industry for some concept art, and then we just went off from there, and he asked me if we can just collaborate and asked me to do art direction instead of just providing concept art. So now I'm working with like other artists, UI artists, narrative designers, etc. Yeah.
Is it a big difference in terms of shifting your mindset from one form of creating to another, like from comic books to gaming? Is it pretty much the same, or are there major differences?
I guess there are major differences in terms of the way that I'll have to work because for my comic, I'm basically running all by myself aside from my editor. That's about it. However, for the games, it's bigger projects. For gaming industry wise, it's working with a lot of people back and forth. A lot of time is being spent on communication. and bring other people's ideas together into fruition and directing other artists how to have a cohesive look and how that can play in engine in say Unity or Unreal. So in that sense, it's quite different.
Okay. So with everything that you do, like the variety of different media that you focus on, do you have a preference for when it comes to creating? Would it be games or comic books or just illustrations?
I'd say somewhere that sits between just illustrations and comics. Again, going back to the analog versus digital thing, if I can have the capacity to do everything analog and just full out to my maximum limit and just do that, I would just do that. That would be the best.
That's good. Now, we've been talking about Cursed at Sea. I'm wondering, do you have any other projects on the go that you can talk about?
Well, I have some short stories that I'm working on, and also I've been planning a illustration series or perhaps, hopefully, exhibitions of my works. And again, it's ocean related. So that somehow links back to Cursed at Sea. And again, it's a series, it's an ongoing series. So I'm shoving a lot of my short story ideas into that as well, just onto different characters. So everything comes together in this one world view. So if that counts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Now, we were talking about Toronto Comic Con. Do you have
Yes.
any other events coming up in your future where you'll be displaying your work?
Oh, yeah, of course. Just the weekend that's coming up, the 29th and 30th, I am at Toronto Game Expo for certain. And Niagara Falls Comic Con, that's in the summer. Fan Expo Canada, that's the big one. That's my best show. And probably smaller conventions. I do Compass Con, which is a smaller event, but it's really friendly to comic people. So yeah, that one's great. And they do events at smaller towns. So to the people that don't really get access to bigger cons, it's also wonderful. Yeah, so you can catch me at everywhere.
That's great. For everything that you have going on today and tomorrow, where do you recommend people go online to find out about all your work?
Well, right now I'm most active on Instagram. I check it every day at nancyz.art. You can find everything there, or go on my website. There's a subscription option, and I will very slowly send out emails on bigger updates of my artistic career.
And what's your website address?
The same as my Instagram handle, actually. It's just nancyz.art.
Great. Well, Nancy, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering, is there something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview?
Okay, here's the side note. I do music on the side, not really professionally, but I do music on the side, and I'm writing some stuff for Cursed at Sea. So hopefully that will come out somewhere this year. I have at least the first track all recorded, ready to go, just didn't mix it yet. So that's coming.
Thanks to Nancy for the chat. You can discover more about Nancy online at nancyz.art and on Instagram at instagram.com/nancyz.art. And thank you for tuning in to the True North Country Comics podcast. I invite you to visit the True North Country Comics website to listen to even more conversations about creators and their insight on making comic books and graphic novels. I also encourage you to subscribe via the website so you'll be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. You can follow along True North Country Comics on most social media sites. And you're encouraged to send any and all feedback to john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2025.